Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Shivam and I am from Team ZapScale. ZapScale, as you might know, we are a customer success platform for B2B SaaS businesses. And today we are presenting how ZapScale enables complete customer visibility for customer success teams. And to speak on this topic, we have Kundan Sengupta, who is a very good friend and also a retention specialist at ZapScale. Um, just a little housekeeping before we begin. If you have any questions during the presentation, please do type them up in the question box or the chat box in your Zoom control panel. I will bring them up at the end of the webinar. Also, since this is a 30-minute webinar, in case we miss answering any questions, do not worry, we will get back to you with a response through email. And now, without further ado, let me introduce Kundan and let him take this forward from here. Over to you, Kundan.
Thanks, Shivam. Thanks for the warm welcome. He mentioned that we are very close friends. He didn't mention that we used to have a music band together, where he
Oh,
used to
yeah.
be a guitarist. So yeah, our topic today is just touching upon one of the aspects of ZapScale, which is how we enable complete customer visibility. But what we are majorly here to talk about is the fact that customer success folks are always super busy. Wouldn't we agree? Every friend of mine who's in B2B SaaS customer success, whom I've spoken to, are always super busy. What's the reason for that? Of course, you're handling a bunch of large, customers, but that's not why you're super busy. The point is that for any customer, the data which tells you the story of the customer is scattered at any B2B SaaS environment. They're scattered in multiple places: product usage, tickets, there are comms going on, there are payments coming in, there is email or Slack communications happening with them, there are features which the customers are requesting. So let's go and look into the data points one by one, the data points that you have to look at your day-to-day lives to understand the story of a customer. First data point that you most certainly would be looking at is the product usage story. How are your customers using your B2B SaaS product? Now, this data usually resides with the product team. You get this from the product team in the form of a download from a product analytics tool like a mixed panel amplitude or a segment, or they run a query in their database and they send you an Excel sheet. This is one of the primary data points that you look at to understand how your customer is doing on your product. But this is not all. You would also want to understand that what is the customer experience. Yes, they're using certain things in the product, but how frequently do they need help? What is their experience on the product? And this data usually comes from a support tool that you use, something like a Freshdesk, a Zendesk, or an Intercom, or any other tool. And this data usually resides with the support team, which you get in the form of, either a dashboard view of the support tool that you guys are using, or you get a, Excel sheet download. So apart from the product data, you also need to understand what is happening with the, support front. But this again is not enough. You would want to understand that what other expectations does the customer have from your product? Are they making feature requests? Are you accepting the feature request and saying that you're going to build them out? If you are, then what is the timeline associated to it? How many have you delivered so far? This usually is owned by either the support team or your product team, and this data stays in either an Excel sheet or in a tool like a Jira or a ServiceNow or a Zohodesk. But again, this is not all. You would also want to understand what is the financial side of the story. How are your customers reacting to the invoices that you share with them on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis? Have they paid all the invoices? Is there a due which you should be aware of? Is there an overdue which is 90-day plus, which is not good from a customer perspective? Is a typical sign that they are not in a very good situation when it comes to, affording your product. Might go ahead and churn out. This data usually is owned by the finance team in a tool like a Stripe or a ChargeBee or a Zoho Books, and it comes to you in the form of, again, like a dashboard view of the tool or an Excel download, which you get probably, once a fortnight, once a month. uh, this again is not all. To understand the story of a customer, you always have to go back to where everything initiated. What was the discussion with the sales? What is there in your CRM? In a CRM like a HubSpot or a Pipedrive or a Salesforce, this usually comes to you in the form of a handover sheet that you get from your sales team, or you have a direct access to the CRM. Although you're not the primary owners of the CRM, you would still want to do some entries over there or look at the data. Again, this is not all. We looked at product data, we looked at ticketing data, we looked at the data from feature request, we looked at the data from the finance tools, we looked at the data from the CRM. But what you should also keep in constant, view is what is the ongoing communication that the customer has with multiple team members, whether that's from support team, product team, training team, which does not reside in any of the tools, does not reside in the CRM, but it's there in the communication tools that you use. Like you're either writing an email, getting a response, or you're communicating with the customer over an intercom or a Slack. This is my complete data point or the data story that I need to look at to understand what's happening with a single customer. Now imagine this. I'm talking about product data, I'm talking about CRM data, I'm talking about the data from ticketing tools, the feature request tools, the finance tools, your communication tools. Imagine it's a Monday morning and you have a few calls set with a few customers, a couple of QBRs that you need to do this week, a couple of renewals that you would need to start the process for. And you have to look at all these different data points which are coming from different teams in different formats. The product usage can be in an Excel sheet, tickets can be a dashboard, feature requests can be a dashboard. Your communications are always like the raw format in the mails, in the Slack. Your payments can come in a download. The comms with sales and so on, you might have to go into the CRM and look at it. It's a mess. It's a lot of effort. In fact, in the last 1 year where we have been developing and bettering our product, we have spoken to more than 500 CS professionals. Now we can roughly divide them in two groups. Ones who use a customer success platform to try to solve this issue, the others who do not use a customer success platform. The guys who do not use a customer success platform said that they spend 50% of their time not working on the actual customers, but actually looking at the data, trying to understand it, looking for the data, or either looking for the data or looking at the data, trying to analyze it, not being able to spend that hours of time in actual customer facing activities. You might think that getting a CSP or a customer success platform might solve this problem, but we have found that actually it doesn't. We spoke to a bunch of 150 plus people who use customer success platforms, and we saw that typically to integrate all the peripheral tools, all the tools that you use, it takes anywhere between 90 days to a year, average being a 139 days to integrate your other tools to your CS2. And even at that, the maximum number of tools that the average number of tools that a CS organization ends up integrating in their customer success platform is less than 3 tools. It's because it takes so much time that often people give up and they do not integrate the other tools because they say that, okay, my accounts are low priority, I'll go and look at it. Or my CRM is a low priority, I'll go and look at it. Or it's just that the tool stack that you use, probably you use a Zendesk for your tickets, it's not supported by the customer success tool that you've chosen. This is not all. Beyond these, even in the 3 tools that is integrated, if you have a custom setup, which means that you have created some custom objects in which you're keeping some custom fields and some custom data points, these usually cannot be picked up by a customer success platform, because usually everyone follows a strict rule of one-to-one mapping of data fields. The core data fields from any tool are mapped. If you're making a additional data field, if you're making an additional custom object, those cannot be picked up, which means that even after having a CS tool, you are spending a lot of your time actually collating the data to understand what is a customer's story, and then going ahead, tackling it, solving for it. So the question is, what can ZapScale do to reduce the time, to help you in your life to spend more time on your customers and less time looking for the data or looking at the data trying to analyze it. ZapScale essentially at the core of it does three things. ZapScale consolidates from 6, 7 tools around 150 data points and pulls it in one place so that you do not need to move between tools. You do not need to look at Excel sheets when you have to go and do a call with the customer, when you're going to a QBR meeting, when you have a renewal coming up. All the data is in one place at your fingertips. Not just that, we use this data to build a health score for each of your customers through our pre-built KPIs. You don't need to do any more effort. Just plug the sources. Your health scores for each of your customers are built based on how they're using the product, how they're raising tickets with you, how they're raising feature requests with you, how are they paying the bills, how are they communicating with you, if they're communicating or if they've gone cold, the data that they have in the CRM, everything combined, you get to see a health score for each of your customers, based on which you can very easily identify that out of all the customers that I have, who are the guys who are suffering the most? Who do I need to focus on right now and solve for? That's not all. The third thing that we do is we even automate the work of keeping an eye on each of the customers' health scores for you. We keep an eye on each of the KPIs. Whenever something goes wrong, like the product usage is showing a dip, a customer is not logging into your product. Suddenly, they're raising too many tickets. Probably there are new team members who have joined who needs a retraining, or they have not paid their last invoice on time. The due date has passed, but you have not received a payment. Whatever the problem is, you get notified on real time, and you can go ahead and solve the problems on real time rather than waiting for the data to come from a finance team or a product team or a support team and then having to look at it at the end of the month, identifying a problem which happened 15 days back and then trying to mitigate the problem. So this is essentially what ZapScale does. Let me quickly show you. Our today's topic is majorly on the first point. How do we consolidate the data and keep it all together? So let me quickly take you through the product and show you our integrations, show you how we are different, and how we can pick up different, custom data points which you might have set up in your tools. So here's what ZapScale would look like for you once all your tool stack is integrated. You will see your customers along with their ACV value, how important they are, how much revenue share they have with you per year, how far away they are from the renewal. Very important number or a date for the customer success guys to keep an eye on, so that you understand, how important this customer is to work on right now. And you also see an AI driven churn probability, which is very similar to, let's say, our health parameters. Like if I am a human being and my vitals are stable, my churn probability is pretty low. But if my vitals are showing a downward trend, I have a higher churn probability. Right beside that, you see an overall health score, which is a combination of how your users are using the product, what is the product usage score coming from your product integration or an integration with a product analytics tool like a mixed panel or segment. How are the customers raising tickets with you? What is their experience coming from a ticketing tool integration like a Freshdesk, Zendesk, HubSpot, and so on? Their feature request score coming from an integration like a tool like Jira or a ServiceNow. What is their billing score? Are they paying their invoices in time? Is there a due? Is there an overdue? Coming from an integration with a tool like a Stripe or a ChargeBee or Zoho Desk. What is their com score? Are they responding to the mails that you're sending, the intercom messages that you're sending, the Slack messages that you're sending? Or are they cold coming from these tool integrations? And finally, a score that you can put up. But we will get into the depths of how the health scores are calculated in a subsequent webinar. That's a topic for a different webinar altogether. Let's focus on how do we get this data into ZapScale. Integrating all these sources is all that you need to do to see this view of your customers and prioritize them. All you need to do in terms of integration is choose what CRM tool you use. Do you use a Salesforce or a HubSpot or a Pipedrive or a Zoho? Choose your tool, give us the API key, and your CRM tool is integrated. We know that from a CRM tool, we would need to pick up certain information, like we need to pick up the name of the customer, or let's say when was the customer created. For these items, we know that in the tool that you've chosen, your CRM, like for example, Zoho CRM, where is it saved? We know that customer's name in Zoho is usually stored in the accounts object in the field called account name. So we have already mapped it for you. If you stored it anywhere else, like in accounts, you store it in a different field called something else, you can change the mapping, of course, no problem. Any mapping that you select here, we will pick it up. Not just that, beyond the fields that we know that we need to pick up, usually to show you what is going on with the customer, you want to add an additional field, you can always do that. Let's say you have set up a custom field in your CRM or in your ticketing tool. You can say that I need to pick it up and put it in the customer object. Let's say I want to pick up the amount which is mentioned in the deal for the CRM. I can say that this is there in my deals object in the CRM and in the field called amount. And this becomes an additional mapping. This becomes an additional field that we pick up. So dynamically, you can choose once your tool is integrated in a matter of 5 minutes, just by giving us the API key, which is there in your Salesforce, in your HubSpot, in any tool that we're integrating. You can choose whatever additional fields you would want to add, you would want to see in ZapScale, and we would pick it up. No problem at all. In terms of ticketing tools, we have an integration with a bunch of them. Most of the leading ticketing tools or support tools that is used by B2B SaaS organizations worldwide, we support them. Freshdesk, HubSpot, Service Hub, Jira, Zoho Desk, Zendesk, Intercom, ServiceNow, Salesforce Cloud. If you're using any of these tools, we can directly integrate using just the API key, which is available in these tools. If you're not, you can always give us a CSV. A similar tool stack you would see for the feature request tools. Mostly people use a tool like a Jira or a ServiceNow to keep the feature requests. You can use any tool. If you use a Freshdesk, HubSpot, or a Zoho Desk, or a Zendesk, or a Salesforce Cloud Intercom, we can pick up the feature requests which the customers are putting in from these tools through a very simple integration. Again, the transformations are very simple. Once you have integrated, you can choose to add more fields into the existing fields that we already map and pick up. Billing tools, we have integration with the two largest, billing and subscription tools used worldwide, Stripe and ChargeBee. If you're using a Zoho Books or a Zoho subscription, we can also integrate with that very, very easily. Going forward, we are writing a few more integrations like tools with tools like Recurly and so on. In terms of communications, if you have, of course, you have your communications with your customers over email. So we'll definitely integrate with your emails. But beyond emails, if you are creating Slack channels with your customers, we can integrate with Slack and pick up the com from those Slack channels. If you're using Intercom for your communications, we can integrate with Intercom, pick up those communications as well. Very soon, we are going live with our MS Teams and WhatsApp integrations as well, from where we would be able to pick up the customer communications that you're having on these tools. And for product usage, if you're using a product analytics tool where you have the product usage matrices, like a tool like a mix panel, a segment, or an amplitude, we can very easily integrate with these tools and pick up the product usage. If you're not using any of these tools and you don't have a product analytic tool as such, you can also use our own tracker code, which is a very, very similar to, let's say, a Google Analytics tracker or a mixed panel tracker. Two simple lines of JavaScript, which you put into your code, and then you can set up the events. Like, I want to see which features are being used in my product. So all you need to do is just open up your tool. Imagine ZapScale ELM is your tool. On top of it, you will see a floating window with which you can choose to create a new event. Click on this target icon and drop it on the place that you want to track. Like, I want to see if people are going to the apply section in my left panel. I'll just drop my pin here, say restricted to text apply, so that only this apply is selected. I will name it. Let's say this is apply from my panel. And that's it. This is a feature which is now saved on your product, and you will get to see for each customer, each user, how this is being used. Now, this is about your integrations. Once these integrations are done, what you will get to see in ZapScale is something like this. If you go inside a customer, let's say I go into Tesla to find out what is going on with Tesla, and I don't just get a detail of their health KPIs, like how is their usage trending based on certain KPIs, how is their ticketing, billing, and other apps trending based on the pre-built KPIs, but I also get to see their raw data. Say, for example, I have to get on a call with Tesla. I know exactly what Tesla is using on my product front end. What features are they clicking on? How many times are they using them? Which features are they not using at all? So that I have an understanding of their product adoption story. I can just move my tab to a ticketing and look at all the tickets raised by Tesla in my support tool, something like a Freshdesk or a Zendesk, which is integrated with ZapScale. I can see that the open tickets, what is the aging of the ticket. I can click on a ticket to get more details about the ticket, along with the change logs, which has been maintained in my support tool. Same story for my feature request. I want to understand that what new things have they requested, how many of them have we already delivered, how many are still open. I don't need to go to a Jira. I can see all of that right from my ZapScale. I can click on any feature to look at the details of the change logs and what is happening within them. Same with my invoices. I do not need to wait for my finance team to tell me that there is an outstanding invoice or an unpaid invoice at a customer. I have a list of all the invoices generated from my invoicing tool, like a Stripe or a ChargeBee. Against that, I can see how much was due, when was it due, how much has been paid, how much is still due, all the story. And along with that, all the communications that has happened between Tesla, the different users, and my team members. When was it that we last did an email exchange? If you have email and intercom, you will see two columns over. If you have Slack, you will see another column for Slack communications, where daily, weekly, you can see, how many comms are happening. You can go to the list of comms, go into a specific communication, and see exactly what was discussed. So this is how we keep all the data in ZapScale. And one interesting thing is that for any other customer success tool, if you have to bring in data from multiple tools, what they ask you is to have a common ID, that there should be an ID that is pointing to a particular customer in my product. The same ID should be pointing to a particular customer in my ticketing tool, in my CRM. Without that, the mapping is impossible. But what we do is we use multiple mapping parameters. There is a unique ID or a common ID. If you have that across tools, very good. If not, we will still map your customers basis the name, the email, the phone number, mobile number, location, domain, etc. For example, there is this customer which is called All Area Estates in my product, in my SaaS app. However, in the ticketing tool, it's named something completely different. But ZapScale has been able to match these two names of two different, like same customer, two different names in two places using the domain. The domain has matched in both the places. Similarly, we will find matches for most of your customers. If you have 3,000, 4,000 customers, you don't need to worry about mapping them individually in ZapScale. We would auto map it. If there is no match found, you will have the option to match it manually, of course. But doing this mapping automatically again saves a lot of time that you need to integrate your products and bring them in one place and then look at the whole story. So now that we can integrate with your entire tool stack, and we can do it very fast, and we can map your customers across different tools using a very simple mapping algorithm that we have. You see a view of your customers which is like this. On a Monday morning, you wake up, you come to ZapScale, and you see that the customers that I need to work on the most this week are Microsoft, Cargill, and Schindler. And this guy is showing a negative trend, and the major problem with them is their tickets and features. Typically, what you will have to do is, you to see this data, you'll have to look at the data of all the different sheets that you're getting from different team members, analyze it, and then find out the problem. This you can do in 1 second. Plus, if you want to drill down into what exactly the problem is, just go into the customer, go to the all data, go to their tickets, and you see the problem right over here itself. There are quite a few tickets which are still open. We have not been able to resolve it for them, which might be a problem that this customer is facing. What about feature requests? There are quite a few feature requests which are marked high priority by the customer, but we have not given a resolution for it. This might be a problem that the customer is facing. So, what I'll do is with this information, with the change logs that I see within the features, within the tickets which are in question, I can have a very quick internal discussion and then go to the customer with a solution. So, that's essentially what ZapScale assists you in doing, which is why our our differentiator with respect to any other tool is that firstly we'll integrate with your entire tool stack so that all your data is in one place, as compared to any other customer success tool which takes anywhere between 3 months to 6 months. We take a maximum of 8 working hours depending on the availability of the people who are needed to integrate. This can be done in a matter of 1 work week. And beyond that, ZapScale can read all custom objects or custom fields, any kind of setup you have in your CRM, in your ticketing tool. We would be able to support that, pick up the correct information, and keep it in ZapScale. Not just that, we can build health KPIs out of that as well. And we have an auto matcher which maps your customers across different tools using not just a common ID, but a lot of other parameters, which saves you a lot of time in onboarding a tool and seeing the data of all your customers together in one place, which is why our integration stack is larger than any other customer success tool at this point of time. These are the tool stacks that we integrate with. If you're using any other tool that we have missed out in the CRM zone or in the ticketing tool zone, product analytics, feature request, payments, let us know in the chat. We are open to more integrations. We'll definitely take them up and build them out. And since our integration is so fast and we're pretty quick to get you from 0 to 1 in terms of not spending 50% of your time looking for data, but having all the data in one place. This is what our users say about us. As of last season, which is fall, ZapScale on G2 has been rated the easiest to use, the best support, and the easiest to set up customer success tool across all the customer success tools that we have. We have an average user rating of 4.8, which is better than any other CSP that is there in the market right now. And our users love us. So, this is essentially what we wanted to cover in today's product webinar. Would love to take your questions. And if you want to talk to me directly, I have my WhatsApp's QR code over here. You can quickly scan it and drop me a line on WhatsApp, or you can write to me in my email address. Shiva.
Oh, yeah, all right. So we're open to questions, people. We have a couple of questions. I'll be taking them in like 30 seconds. Till then, I'm putting Kundan's links in the chat box. If you want to reach out to him on LinkedIn, please feel free. If you want to schedule a 30-minute catch up with him, please feel free to do so as well. You can see all the links in the webinar chat. Now I'm going to take questions. I think we've already exceeded the time now. We've got a couple of minutes left. We have a couple of questions. First is from Rajvi Sani. He asks that how similar is it to the automation of business review, and is the data presented in ZapScale in real time?
Uh, Very interesting questions, Rajveer. When you say business reviews, you are talking about QBRs, EBRs, the discussion, the data points that we need to hold these reviews with the customers, right? So yes, ZapScale essentially right now for the users that we have is the basis in terms of data for running their MBRs, EBRs, and QBRs. We pull the data on a daily basis. We consolidate it at the end of the day in midnight, and we present to you the data the next day, which means that the latest data that you can see is yesterday. So it's a daily consolidation, not real time, but it's not, you don't have to wait for a month or a week. Today, you can see what happened to your customers yesterday.
All right. I think that answered the question. I hope that answered the question. I'm going to take two more questions. There's an anonymous question that is, can we upload data through CSV instead of integration?
Yes, you can. For all the integration spots that we have, whether it's ticketing, your feature requests, your invoices, or let's say the data which is coming from your CRM, you can always upload that, create custom fields in ZapScale, and view that in the way that you would want to view.
Do you handle APIs? There's another question.
Absolutely, that's a great question. One of the major areas that we are looking to build out more integrations is data warehouses like Snowflake and so on. However, right now we handle that through API. We have our own API structure. So any data that you have in your product database in your data warehouse, you can push it to ZapScale through an API, and we can build out custom KPIs out of it, so that the key business matrices that you want to track are also tracked in ZapScale, and each of your customers are scored based on how they're achieving value from your product. Would love to, show you more in a separate discussion.
All right, I am going to take one more question, and then we'll end the webinar. Um, what about segmentation? Can we create our own segments?
Absolutely, you can create any number of segments in ZapScale. You can just create a segment which is from, let's say, I want to create a segment based on the ACV values. I want my customers which are X ACV plus, or I want to create a segment based on their location, India customers separately, my US customers separately, or I want to make a segment based on the plan that the customers are on, or I just want to create a custom segment where I manually add these customers. Like I want to look at Tesla, and I want to look at, let's say, Microsoft in one particular segment with value accounts segment like that, pick up the view, and all my pages in ZapScale, if I want to look at what's happening with all my customers who are paying me above $50,000, I can see that separately. I can even filter my dashboard view based on the segments that I've created. So you can create unlimited number of segments in ZapScale. You can view the data of your customers based on the segment in any page on ZapScale.
All right. I know we've exceeded the time, but I really hate when we can't answer some of the questions. So I'm just going to take one more from Sheikh. He asks that can we create segments using custom fields in ZapScale?
You can, absolutely. We can pick up any custom field from your CRM, and based on that custom field, you want to create a segment. We can absolutely make that happen.
All right. I think that answers the questions. People, if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to Kundan. All of the details I have given in the chat here. If you want to connect with him on LinkedIn, or if you want to book a private meeting with him,
Yeah,
please
Sheikh,
feel free to do
actually
so.
would love to have a one-to-one conversation with you, understand your use cases, where the questions are coming from, and then see what we can do together.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. We will be back with yet another webinar, and we will let you know. Please have a good dinner,
Thanks.
and yeah, and we'll see you in the next webinar.
Thanks, Shivam. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.